Uh,
Okay, the recording has just started.
All right.
so, I'm sorry I'm not looking at you all, but I am. My camera just doesn't seem to want to be where it's supposed to be. So I wanted to come to the meeting because I watched the video where Paul made a pretty inappropriate comment, and I wanted to just make sure everybody had had a chance to process that. And I looked back at your charter, and it says, let me pull it up here real quick. Let's see. Where did I put it? Oh, shoot. Anyway, it says that if you're going to have a conflict, that you're going to talk about it in the meetings. And you all really just kind of didn't. It was, and I don't know if people were offended, really offended, or if.
Well, can I say something?
Yes, jump in.
Our last meeting, we actually did talk about it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
We did bring it up. It was brought up, and I told him it wasn't a big deal.
Multiple times since, actually.
Okay, so nobody is having a major problem with it? Okay, because it could have been, Paul, one of the things that you need to pay attention to is your audience, because it could have been a problem. And I think Amber mentioned something about harassment, and that certainly is a possibility. That was a possibility. I mean, it doesn't necessarily happen, but it could have. And so you just have to be aware of, especially when you're moving into sort of sexual innuendo. And that's just one of those topics that you have to be really sensitive about. And I felt like I had to jump in, because if somebody really was offended and wanted to complain, I needed to give them an opportunity to do that and to tell them that it was okay if they wanted to. And I knew it was joking, but it might have just, I think it probably crossed the line. The first part was funny, I thought, where especially because his dad was listening, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, if I may interject, Dr. Chandler, you were actually looking at them out of order.
Yes, I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. And so, but I don't think I've seen the one where you all talk about it. Now, maybe that was number 6.
We discussed it in our team assessments, but directly we did discuss it. But in addition to that, since that initial comment was made, you know, even if it's in joking, because we're still in a safe environment, we did bring it up to Paul, and he understands.
Okay, great. Okay, then that's all. That was the only thing I just wanted to make sure about, because I mean, it just it caught me off guard a little bit, and I thought, I better jump in and just make sure that it's okay. So as long as everyone's okay and you all have talked about it, then great. That's wonderful. That's exactly what you should have done. So, and Paul, you're good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It makes sense why that was sort of over the line a little bit?
Well, we handled it, yeah.
Okay. All right, great. All right, you all are doing a good job. I've given you a bunch of feedback, and I apologize that it's not coming out more in order, but I'm trying to also do things that count more points first, so that those things, if you're worried about them, you're getting them. I still have, I think, a couple of things left to do. There's one, I believe, that is just audio. Is that really true still? And you're sure that you don't have the video on your computer?
Correct. Zoom got back to me, and they said that they couldn't uncorrupt.
They did? Okay. All right, then I'll just listen to that audio. I'm not listening to them word for word because I just can't. But with this number of teams, the class is designed for more like about 30 students instead of about 60, and about 5 teams instead of about 10. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. So the next time I have this number of students, I'm a little bit more organized. And so I apologize for that. But it is just the nature of teaching these days. We don't have time to do all the prep that would be helpful in, because we usually get like 2 days between when grades are due and when the next class starts. So there's
I
just,
would like to offer a suggestion for that right
sure.
away. During the initial meetings that are being selected, like one of the guidelines should be that you should always be able to attend said meeting. So that is one scheduled meeting that you as the instructor and the students would always be able to depend on, and then the other days would be able to rotate.
Okay, I don't get what you mean.
So you had the initial meetings 1 through however many days, right?
Right.
And that time and that day of the week could have
Oh,
been
you
a
mean
consistent day.
that's that time for everybody?
Yeah, just for that team on that day, so that you and the team are on the same page, and then the other, discussion would be a flexible one.
It's really hard to do that because your schedules change so much.
Well, and I understand that, but keep in mind, we even with an in-house class, or if we were in person, guess what? We would have to make it to that class each time.
But that's why you're not in on-campus program, because you don't have that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it certainly would be a lot easier for me, but I'm afraid that just listening to the teams try and set up meetings, it's just, they're all over the place in terms of their schedules and what, and I'm afraid that they would not be able to attend. So, but there has to be a better way of figuring this out, and I'm not sure what it is. But you all, most of the teams, I think there was in all of the teams, out of the 60 students or so, I think there were 5 students that missed meetings. And I think that's just amazing, that they were able to do that. It takes a long time for you all to figure it out, and there must be a better way of having you all do that, but I don't know what it is. But giving you all that ability to set the meetings means that more people can come. But I wish I could just set or say it's Monday night at 2:00 or at 7:00, and that's it when you have to come. People also have suggested that I try and match time zones, and I mean, I just can't even imagine trying to do that with a short week. Usually the first week is short, and so if I start moving people around, then they don't get that first opportunity to sort of bond.
Well, you wouldn't need to move them around if you're just labeling the groups as their time zone.
Yeah, and I could maybe do that. I'm looking at some options for how to set that up. But I know what I had hoped would happen is that people would have somewhat regular schedules, and they could say, okay, well, I can come to the first meeting on Tuesday night at 7. And so every week they would have that option, but that's not how people's schedules are. I mean, just Aaron's changes, and somebody else in this group always changed their when they were available. Some people were more available than others. But yeah, I mean, I'll take that into consideration, because I think there has to be a better way of doing some of this stuff. I also hoped that students would take the instructions and highlight the things that were most important, so that I didn't have to do that for them. But I don't know that that happens, so I might have to do bullet points for the instructions so that they're easier to follow. But I also tend toward, as you all know, being a little bit more verbose and then some. And so I also try and explain why I have the instructions set up the way that I do, and that makes them longer. So I don't know. I mean, it's a balance, as in most of the things that you all found, is a balance between, talking more but making the meetings efficient. So I don't know. It's my favorite class, and the students by and large really like the experience and find that they learned a lot. And so even if there's tweaking that needs to be done, it still tends to be people's favorite class so far. And I think you all have learned, I mean, I can just tell from listening to you all talk that you're learning a whole lot, and about interpersonal relationships, about team building, and about how to lead. And that to me is the goal, is to make sure that you all are learning from each other, and you are. I mean, that's why the grades are so good. Oh, and you all wanted to know about the grade for the other team. And I don't know if you've read that feedback or not, but I will tell you that you would not be happy with the grade that they got, I'm sure, because they did fine. And when I looked back at my comments for them, I don't look to see if they're doing the right assessment, if they're actually giving you the right feedback, because you all are supposed to take that and do with it what you should do, which is if it's not valuable to you, you skip over it and move on to the next thing, so that you don't, because you all's reaction was like so defensive. It was like amazing to watch. Everybody was so angry, except Cheyenne actually did a pretty good job of not being too defensive. She jumped in and Marina wasn't too bad, but the rest of you all were just like, God, super defensive. And I understand why, but that was the point of the assignment, was for you to get some feedback so you could do that. You could practice.
Which feedback was that?
That was the feedback from team 1 or team 10. You're team 1, so team 10.
It's assignment 3.4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of explained the criteria that I use and why, because everybody gets good grades in this class, unless you don't come to the meetings or do the readings, because I don't grade based on if you screw up. So I did not compare their assessment with mine, because that's not the point of the assignment. The point of the assignment is for you all to hear some feedback and to go, oh, thank you, that was interesting, that didn't apply, we don't agree with that, and move on to the next thing. And so it'll be fun to see what you all think about there. If you're going to do the extra credit, it'll be interesting to see how people have changed their perception of each other. Everybody got defensive, so I don't know. And I've asked you all to add to this agenda that question, should I keep that assignment or not? So I'll be interested in your feedback on that as well. Because I don't know. I mean, it last time it happened again, it happened before, and I asked the teams what they thought, and they said I should leave it in, so I did. But my inclination every time I see those videos is to take it out. So
take it out because it's negative, the response?
Because the response that the teams get is discouraging to them, and they do all get defensive because the other teams don't do it perfectly. And no matter how positive the feedback is from another team, if there's any negatives in there at all, they focus on those and don't pay attention to any of the positive. And if they think it's wrong, which they often do, they just go crazy and have an opportunity to be real defensive. And then I have to watch it and think, oh God, this is discouraging people, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm thinking about taking it out, but I'm interested to see what people think about whether I should leave it in or not. So please add that to the agenda. Be sure and fill out your course evaluations. I sent out an email saying, how important it is, and it is important. It does make a difference in terms of how I pay attention to it as feedback, but I also get reappointed and raises and all that stuff based on evaluations. And if only 25% of the students, and they're the 25% that hate the class, then that's not good. Or if they're the 25% that love the class but most of the students didn't, then that's not fair either. So I really do like to see as close to 100% of turnaround response rate as possible. And I can't give you extra credits. I know some people do, but I'm not supposed to, so I don't. Being the rule following person that I am. Yeah, right. So anyway, you all have any other comments or questions? I'm glad you all managed to handle that in the appropriate way, and I'm glad you called him out on it. And any other questions or comments? Nope, everybody good? Okay. All right. Well, have a good meeting. I will post the rest. I'm working on 5.2 or something right now. And so I'll get that to you, but I don't think you have another meeting after this, do you?
No,
Are you doing the extra credit or no?
no.
No.
Guys, you should do it anyway just to learn from it. But even if you don't need the extra credit. So holler if there's anything wrong with the grades, let me know, because if I've like given you partial points and then I said I would adjust them, remind me that I need to do that still. And I will wish you all good luck in your future endeavors. It was fun to have you in the class. It was a great team and very entertaining and very informative. And I think you all did a good job. So I hope you all think so too.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Chandler.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Have a
Dr.
good
Chandler.
meeting.
Thank you. Have a
Yeah.
good day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys.
Amber, I thought you were gonna go in right now. Like,
I
Listen,
know.
I had to hold myself back because we were going to go through it in the agenda anyway.
yeah.
And I don't like to be
Dude, Paul, she
interrupted.
like totally grilled you, bro.
Did she? Because I've
No.
had worse for less.
yeah, I'm just playing.
I mean,
All right, guys. How's everybody?
Pretty good.
Good, good,
Good.
cool. All right, so we're in gallery view. So I guess we're doing the introductions. So my name is Isadora, and I'm the facilitator. And today is our last meeting for Module 7.
forever.
All right, go Cheyenne.
I'm Cheyenne, and I'm doing the submitter role. Marina.
Hi, I'm Marina. I am the challenger, Amber.
Oh, I forgot my name. My name's Amber, and I'm the host this meeting. Aaron.
I'm Aaron. I'm the jokester, Paul.
I'm Paul. I'm the timekeeper.
Okay. So everyone is here. And the joke of the day.
Okay.
Really
so,
quick.
oh, okay.
Sorry. At the end of point number 2, she says that we need to state what team we are and which assignment. So we're team 1, and we're working on assignment 7.1.
Cool. Okay, so my joke is, what's the difference between a guitar and a fish? You can't tune a fish.
You can't tune a ukulele either.
I thought that's where that was going.
You know, I brought that joke here knowing you might say that. I was prepared.
Okay. So 5 team members preparedness. Each of you guys have watched all the videos and like the overview, the case study, and everything. Everybody read everything and watched everything.
Mhm.
Yep.
I actually watch our video like again right now just to remember what my face looked like. Like, let me do it again.
Did you do what Amber suggested and watch the section where you were getting assessed, or what did you watch?
Yeah, I did the report.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Right on.
Is that what everybody did? No. All right. 7, review the agenda and make any needed changes, including issues remaining from previous meeting. I think we just did all of that with Dr. Chandler, correct? Like we cover polls, interviews, I guess. I don't know. Polls intake on these meetings. She got a lot of feedback to us, right? Do you guys want to read some of them? Or...
I think we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what we just got, though, to be honest. Like,
There were like 7
We
of
got
them.
like 5, yeah, like,
I
yeah,
got
that was a
7.
lot.
But there
Yeah.
were some of the notes too.
You wrote them down.
Yeah.
You wrote them down?
Yes.
Yes. Sure.
So
Always
a lot
count.
of them were notes, but for the videos, it's assignment 3.4, 6.1, and 4.2.
3.4, 6.1. Okay.
Where do we want to start?
3.4.
3.4. Yeah, let me go get them. You guys go on grades and
Also,
then right?
I'll
Oh.
go first.
also, keep in mind, I do have to go to work soon. I mean, not soon, but you know, like,
Yeah.
we don't want this going over, like,
I'm
probably
gonna,
an
You
hour
guys
and a
have
half.
a grade for module. I didn't mean to interrupt, Aaron. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know you're good. I finished. For module 3.
For assignment 3.4, do you guys have a grade?
Yeah.
No, that's what she was talking about with the audio file.
There's
Well,
two of them.
so there's 2 of them in there.
Okay, got
Oh.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, Cheyenne. I think Cheyenne's the one who brought it up the first time. That there's 2 in there, and the first
Oh,
one
I see it.
looks like it's been redacted, so it doesn't count.
So right now we're looking at the one where we got 48 out of 50.
45 out of 50.
45 out of 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should say
Oh.
3.4 revised in parentheses.
It looks like a lot, but it's just repeated twice on there, I'm pretty sure.
It
Okay,
is.
cool.
Okay.
Oh, it is. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Christ
Woo!
almighty. Actually, yeah, because that makes sense. Because why would she sign her name in the middle? Okay.
Mhm.
Right.
All right, so team 1, module 3, review of feedback from another team. You all confused me about which meeting. Well, these are pretty defensive reactions. They were giving you their perception and what you all needed to do is take what was valuable and discard what wasn't. Cheyenne's comments were more in line with a non-defensive reaction. This is a hard assignment because it is difficult to not be defensive. You all could have had a much shorter meeting if you had just taken from it what was useful. Who's next?
I can go. Oh. I grade the assignment assessing another team on several criteria. Did they all participate? Did they all watch the section of the other team's video? And did they establish criteria and then measure the team against those criteria? I do not assess whether I think their assessment is fair or accurate because they are only watching a portion of the meeting, and so could we weigh off in terms of their perception. The main point of the assignment is to give you all a chance to react to feedback, whether or not it is valid. I did suggest to Team 10 that they probably should have included more positive to balance out the negative comments. However, that said, they did the assignment well in terms of the criteria I used to grade them, just as you did. A reminder about my grading philosophy. I don't penalize teams or students for doing something wrong, as you all are learning. I grade mostly based on effort and engagement. Unless it is something I've mentioned to you before, I rarely take off points if the assignment isn't perfect, as long as the participation was there and the team followed directions.
Okay. I'll go. So for example, your team's grade for this assessment is not 100% because the whole meeting was mostly about defensive reactions rather than following the instructions to take what was useful and discard what wasn't. Dr. Chenley.
I'll go ahead and take my 90 for my defensive reaction.
Back through, and because in the meeting, like, I didn't think that we were defensive. But after reading her feedback, I went through and I rewatched the meeting.
We were very at least I was like kind of pissed about it.
Well,
Because we'd start our statement with like, I'm not trying to be defensive or anything, and then we
Well, and I would say, something to keep in mind is that having a videoed response of our initial responses is not accurate. It's not fair because we're literally taking in the information and have yet to respond. So if you're getting negative feedback from, a supervisor, you have a chance to take a moment and think about it before you actually respond. But this, being in a videoed environment, I don't know that point should have been knocked off. I think that if anything, it should have been like, hey, you guys, the point of the exercise is to take in the information and have a response that is not negative, but not, mark off for what our initial reactions are. I don't know that.
Yeah, I agree.
Fair, especially because it doesn't say that specifically in the instructions that, hey, you need to do this way. So. Granted,
the learning material did discuss defensiveness and how to avoid that. I will say that. I also say I don't know if I agree with not assessing the assessment. Like, there should be some kind of grading done on whether or not their points were valid. You know what I mean?
Consistent.
Yeah, because like you can do a lot of damage if
analysis throughout the teams because nobody was using the same scale.
Yeah. Because you can do a lot of damage if you're just throwing out comments that aren't necessarily factual.
I do think part of the assignment was coming up with a criteria for grading the other team.
Kitty.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is I watched over a few minutes of it, like when I saw that feedback, and I do think we were being very defensive. And I almost feel like we're actually being defensive right now
Here we are.
And I just think, I mean,
Be defensive or anything.
I think we got different. I didn't get 45. I think we got different amount of points, but
Really?
You're
yeah,
looking at
'cause I didn't get
3.5.
Yeah, I didn't
3.5
get
has
45.
48, but 3.4 has 45.
Yeah, I got 3
So
points.
we all have different
Yeah.
grades because I got 50.
yeah, I got a different grade as
Oh,
well.
because you weren't
okay.
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just think we're almost even being defensive right now.
Yeah.
Again, initial responses, and mind you,
Yeah.
if it was something that required a response in person, my tone would be different because it would have to.
Yeah, I know what you mean about that, but I do think, because I think we talk about it in our group chat before we even filmed the video. Like we saw it all and we made jokes. And I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing was kind of, I feel like we got to the point where we weren't even saying anything constructive. We were just like low-key roasting Team 10. Like in a joking manner, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, like just kind of like this is a class and we're literally learning. So I think as long as we all like learned at least like 1% of something from it, then we're the better for it.
Mhm.
I
Moving
think
on, guys.
Oh.
Oh, you guys can still talk about it, but I just feel like this is in the past. We should let it go. Let it go.
Well, but if Cheyenne had some to say.
Oh,
I was just gonna make a comment, and maybe this should be applied later, but I think because of the setup of the team, like it being virtual, and like we have made this a very informal environment. Like it's sometimes hard to remember, like this is actually supposed to be a professional environment, and just reminding ourselves of that when we're receiving feedback.
She's right.
Okay.
yeah.
That is a fair point.
What would our next feedback be?
4.2.
6.1? Oh, 4.2?
4.2. Yeah, like even the grade book's out of order, and that throws me off.
Yeah, it's weird.
Do you want me to start reading it?
Oh, I got it. There
Yeah.
we go.
It's kind of short. Should I just knock it out?
Yeah, just knock it out.
Okay, cool. Team 1 interview guide meeting. Thanks for going over the feedback so carefully. The way that you all decided the interviewee was great, and Marina came up with a great way of organizing the interview. The discussion that came after was very good too, if what somewhat awkward, just a bit. But you all worked through all the suggestions were and came to a decision about how to do the interview and how to do the interview guide. It is hard sometimes to decide things in a self-directed team, but over time, it would work out more smoothly. I skipped through some of the blah, 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 and we addressed that. Cool.
I don't know if it's because it was my dad, but I didn't find it awkward at all, not one bit. But did you guys find it awkward, like at the end there?
Well, wait, isn't this?
This was
oh
when we were putting the
wait.
guide
This-
together.
Yeah,
What?
this came before the interview.
Oh, okay. I heard that wrong because I thought it said the interviewee was great, not how we decided on the interviewee was great. Okay, I'm sorry. Totally.
Well, okay, what was awkward then? Does anybody remember?
Yeah, but then I don't even know what would be awkward.
During this meeting, that's when we started like stalking his dad
Yeah.
through Facebook, and that's when Paul like first confessed his love for him, and like, we're gonna become Aaron's stepdad.
Okay.
So I think that's what she was referring to.
That's probably exactly what she was referring
Oh goodness.
Right. All right.
to. Oh Lord. Okay.
All
What's
right.
the next one?
6 something.
6.1.
6.1. I gotta scroll and find it because they're
Yeah, give me
all
a
out of
sec.
order.
There we go. Okay.
Can I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so great discussion with, so Team 1, Module 6 content meeting. Great discussion with very important points on the case study in Chapter 4. Many of the points you made were very subtle readings of the materials. Great job. Aaron, you look like you're falling asleep. You are fiddling a lot. And, okay, I'm going to get defensive. I've just finished an 8.5-hour shift,
Yeah.
and it was 12 in the morning. I was tired, and I also am a fidgeter, so.
Aaron, I don't think anybody here was holding that against you.
Yeah,
I
I know.
definitely was.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Man.
It's Cheyenne, you know?
As was Marina.
So great discussion also on the introvert video. So the discussion on the vulnerability video wasn't very effective. You were all talking over each other. some and there wasn't any structure to the discussion, this would have been a great time for the facilitator to jump in and organize the discussion so everyone had a chance to say their viewpoint and to really let everyone else listen carefully and opening to the viewpoints.
Which is fair. Yeah.
Someone else want to read?
Do you guys want to read the middle paragraph? I feel like we just addressed that with Dr. Chanley. We can
Yeah, we're
discuss
good
it
on
again. I'm fine with that, but I feel like we just addressed it.
Yeah, I guess that's all we really need to read because the rest of it's just. Well, and then she said, "Aaron, you left, but didn't say why." Like,
I think
yeah,
you were
I'm,
just
I'm not in the I'm not in the meeting. I can't say why. Like, my internet went down, but
Yeah,
we're
and
good.
you did actually say that.
I did text you guys immediately, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, my internet just cut out."
All right.
Was there anything else?
Not on that one.
Oh, I think the rest was just notes.
Awesome. Right on.
Is that me? Sorry. Okay, so moving on.
Okay.
7, discussion of the readings and the videos. Below are the prompts of the module 7 and for the assessment readings and videos. Case study. So discuss the case study from the assessment readings and follow the emblemed instructions, except the one to come up with 20 ideas. A couple each should be fine.
Oh, okay.
I know, because like I remember, I think it was Paul just sent us the text messages, like the notes. I put as much as I could in 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so long.
Oh, she said just to put a few. I only put 3.
I put 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I put 5 or 6 for each of them.
I literally just wrote like a paragraph of
Aaron.
stuff.
Okay, so, and then discuss the other readings and videos demonstrating that you have read and understood those materials.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess rewarding teamwork. Do you guys want to do one by one, like the bullet point, like go case study first and then go on? Okay. So since we have 6, each of one, you want to give one of the ideas, I guess?
Yeah.
6 people. All right. Who would like to start?
I will. So as far as discussing the case study, of course there is a bird everywhere. I know that Cheyenne had like 3 birds, right, in your last class.
Cheyenne was the only non-bird.
You were the non-bird, so you were just
Bless
the
her soul.
Cheyenne. And I definitely have experience where, team members just kind of disappear and pop up when they want to. And in general, I definitely think that, or the suggestion that I had was just to notify the instructor or Dr. Spock of the lack of participation. And then also there's usually some form of being able to assess your team members. So I just would light them up in that and go about my business, because ultimately this is a learning environment. If it was one where work was required and there were, paychecks to be had, there would be implications in place. So I think that just notifying and moving on is the best thing that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I totally agree with you. I put something kind of similar, but like as far as like having to deal with him, like if the case were to like instead of just telling an instructor and moving on, like actually trying to like help him, I think it would be better to like sit him down like as a group, if he actually showed up to one, like assuming he did, and just like simply ask like what you can do to help him out, like, because you're not going to get anything out of a conversation if they just decide he's not worth the effort. And if he still isn't like cooperative or doesn't care, and clearly it's just a case of a bird, like, move on, like Amber said. But like, as long as you say you tried and you're like, hey, yeah, we definitely had this discussion with him, and he just didn't want to put in the effort. So like, there's nothing, you can't make someone do work. So there's only so much you can do. And so like just letting the instructor know after that, yeah. But as long as you say like, we tried to help him, we had a discussion or like a dialogue, I guess, that's what I put.
Mm-hmm.
Cheyenne, you want to go?
Yeah. So I wrote down basically the same thing that both Amber and Aaron said. Another thing that I had written, and maybe because I'm guilty of this, is at the end of the day, like if it's a group project, then at some point you're just gonna have to suck it up and divide up their part of the work and just continuing on. And so I think after including the instructor and including Bert in the conversation, if nothing else is happening, then you just gotta take his part and just work with it.
I did have that as one of my suggestions too, because the guidelines for the project aren't going to change just because of the level of participation. So good suggestion there too.
Marina?
Cool. So I think that I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying. I think ideally, like I would like to think that I'd step in and like approach Bert and ask him for like ways I can support him to like help him get to where he needs to be so he can be doing this schoolwork. But I know that if these other students have a lot going on with them and their coursework, I think the best thing to do is reach out to the instructor and just have a very clear line of communication about what's going on, and just like communicating like what the students have done to help Bert or reach out to Bert, and then ultimately just move forward with the project and keep doing what they need to do to protect their grade or get the grade they want.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't gone? Sorry. Paul? Okay, Paul.
So, do you want to go? You can go.
No, you can go.
I'm pretty much on track with you guys. I gave 3. My first 2 were in line with Amber and Cheyenne, where approach the teacher, hopefully remove the issue, Bert, or because it's 3/4 of the way through the semester, unfortunately, just push on through and hopefully leave him behind. My other one that hasn't been brought up, and it's a little bit more extreme, is that they arguably have a case of plagiarism that they can bring forward, that he's slapping his name on other people's work and his efforts actually haven't got into it. That's a bit more extreme, and while I've seen it happen, it's not necessarily a go-to response. Isadora,
I like it.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Do it.
Bert deserves it, right? Like,
well, no, he doesn't deserve the grade apparently. So
no, he deserves the consequences.
Yeah, definitely.
Isadora?
I put kind of like, I put a good thing and a bad thing. I put like, as a team, they should have got a better like decision of what they want to do with him, because after all, it's a team meeting, it's a team group, so you can't just leave him out and just not explain exactly what was going on. So I put that like the team should come to like a conversation with him, like sit down with him, like, hey, you get your stuff together or we're going to have to take you out. And then if you don't want to participate, here's what you need to do to be able to get the grade. Because after all, like, we are doing the work for you. In life, that's not going to happen. Like, people are not going to do things for you. So that's one of the things I put. And I feel like it has to do with like my work life. Like, I tell people like, here, that's how it's going to go. If you can't do it, nobody's going to do it for you. It's going to be rollover. So you're not going to get anything out of it. Okay. Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So discuss the other readings and videos demonstrating that you have read and understood those materials. So one regarding teamwork. So A, regarding teamwork. Do you guys want to do it one by one again? I feel like it might be easier.
Yeah.
We need to address the other 2 questions in
The case study.
Yeah, there were 2 other. And the second one actually involved a consensus, so.
Yeah. Sorry, what time do you have to go, Erin? Do you want to go first and all of them, and then we just discuss the rest so you can be part of it?
Oh, no, it's fine. We could just flow. I don't have to leave for like, at least an hour and 20 minutes. Ideally, I'd like a little bit of time to get ready, but we'll just go with it. We'll be good.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I have to babysit today, so I have to leave by like 10:10 Arizona time. That gives us an hour.
Okay.
It wasn't part of the agreement, Cheyenne.
I know, I'm sorry. Things came up, family emergency.
Cool.
get
We
it.
can
Baby's
knock it
getting
out.
away.
I believe in us.
We got
Okay.
this.
I feel like then on 9 everyone can do one, so that way we can knock it all out. So there's like 6. I already count. There's like 6 prompts, and if everyone pick one, I think that'll be easy.
Yeah, but that won't count for Dr. Chanley. She wants us to discuss, remember?
Okay, never
So
mind.
let's just get back into it and keep going.
Okay, so
I would like that idea, trust me. So we have to talk about a consensus.
yes, who would like to start, like regarding like the teamwork?
So as a group, come to a consensus about the top strategy. What recommendation would you make to Dr. Spock about BERT? Keep in mind that successful teamwork is graded part of this design project. Why is that strategy your group selection? So will we do the plagiarism one? Or would we just, inform the instructor and adjust our roles and what everyone is taking on?
See, I kind of read it a little bit different because I feel like on the end, she also said that she put all the stuff out there and it's a group thing, and she want them to kind of take charges of what to do. Right?
Yeah, but it's like if you don't have someone participating and you tried everything you can to get them to participate, what else can you do? Like you have to move on from that.
So for you, Isadora, your shifts, they don't want to participate. You end up doing it anyway. It has to get done.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like the same, like, okay, they need to do it, but they're not doing it. But it still has to be done in this time. This is the deadline for these things.
Unfortunately, just going off the like what's most likely, I think the team has to put their head down and push through the semester.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's not fair to them, but this Dr. Spock doesn't sound helpful or reasonable, so I would just push through.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree that the best thing to do is just like be very communicative about what's going on and like document it like in emails and stuff.
Yeah.
But also kind of just keep doing what you need to do to get an A.
And then I did put that, because we've notified Dr. Spock that, Bert should still get a reduction in his grade. He can get our grade to start, but based off of his participation, I think that he needs a 25% knockoff based off of what he's done. He can still be included in the group, but you ain't getting this A with me. Okay?
True. It's not fair.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question.
I think that we already addressed it.
Okay, so 9? No, like the pecking order to work?
Well, I don't know if we addressed it because this one's talking about Dr. Spock, how she should react, not what the students should do.
Oh, okay.
Because there was 3, right? Like first was Brent, second was like the team as a group, and then the third one was Dr. Spock.
Yeah.
So the question says, now take the position of Dr. Spock. In addition to teaching chemical engineering, she is also trying to instill in her students some elements of teamwork. She knows that all groups everywhere have a BERT to some extent. Her opinion is that you've got to deal with the circumstances such as they are. Changing the circumstances isn't always possible. How should she react to this problem after it is explained by the 3 active students?
She should be understanding of it.
So,
Yeah, I think one thing she could do is like have them like hold their next team meeting like in her office or something so that she could be there or in some way, shape, or form use her authority as an instructor to get Bert to participate.
Assuming he shows up.
Yeah.
Well, if he doesn't show up, then I think she needs to his grade needs to reflect that.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Spock needs to just be give them more structure, and if Bert still doesn't comply, then it needs to either go up to Dr. Spock's next level up, or the grade needs to reflect it.
I feel like Dr. Spock Yeah, I feel like, well, and in my opinion, I feel like Dr. Spock, if she it's a girl, right? I don't.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
woman.
If she. Oh yes. Sorry. If she tried to make that happen in the first place, he's not participating. Well, let me set this up so that maybe he will. I feel like that should be a red flag already. Why does he need the instructors? What's the word? Intervention. Yeah,
And to
yeah.
some extent, it is the teacher's responsibility to teach the material and to like help students. You know, like if a student's struggling, I don't think the teacher should just be like, F next.
No, yeah, I agree.
Some
And I think that's,
basically
and I feel like that should be like a one-on-one there. Like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm getting complaints from your team members. Like, I don't think it needs to be a whole thing. Like, they've already tried talking to you. I feel like that should be like like sit him down and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, is there something you need to talk to me about? Like, what's like, it could be like,
Yeah.
who knows why they're a bird? Who knows why a bird is a bird?
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree with you.
Especially because Bert has a history with this specific class. He's failed it
Yeah.
before.
Right.
Should have walked in wearing a red flag collar, like, hey, don't touch me. And toxic.
He has a red cape behind him.
It'd be easier.
For the response, I put that Dr. Spock should advise the active students that the team or the project rubric would still remain the same, and they're going to have to adjust accordingly. Like it's not a job. The student has paid for the course. What they choose to do with it is what they're choosing to do with it, because the grade that they get is the grade that is assigned to them. So it's not like there's a disciplinary action that can be taken short of if they're outside of the bounds of what the school guidelines are for their behavior. Does that make sense? Like they can't just kick them out of the class if they're not doing anything other than not participating.
Yeah. My suggestions earlier, I guess I didn't go into it just because you guys covered it. I wasn't trying to get Bert removed from the class. I think he should get removed from the group and possibly be put through like the project on himself.
Yeah.
Because I think that falls in line with what Amber was getting at.
Because that would result in his bad grade anyways. So
all on his own.
That would make the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, maybe Dr. Spock should just like have Bert, or like, I don't know, refer him to like a guidance counselor or some form of counseling on campus so he can figure his stuff out.
Yeah.
If he shows up to that.
Yeah.
So my suggestion was that she encouraged the team to continue with the project. Unfortunately, like this is a part of life and sometimes there aren't consequences to it. And you just have to adjust to still meet your goals and your deadlines. My other suggestion was, even if the team is itself, like if they get the same grade as a group project, then the instructor should, 10-10. But the instructor should include like a team assessment. This is something that I did in like the group where I had an entire group of Berts, is we all got the same grade for our group project, but then we had individual assessments. And so in that is where you got your own independent grade.
Yeah.
And so that was my suggestion, was like, yes, it's unfair that they're still going to get the group grade, but at least you'll have an opportunity to express the reasons of why they didn't contribute as a group member.
I think a good way of thinking about group work is like your team. If your team wins the game, all of you get credit, even if you've been on the bench the whole time. Like legit, you are part of the team. This is the grade you get. But
those guys make money.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying in general, in my mind, I have to remember that, like, even at work, I'm like, I'm just not going to talk to you. I'm going to let your supervisor deal with you, and I'm going to stay in my lane and do what I know I need to do. But, we're all on the same team, though. At USAA, we get an annual bonus. Guess what? As long as they're not on disciplinary action, everybody gets that bonus, even if they're, Bert, yeah. So it's what it is.
Isadora, did you have anything?
No, but like when I was reading that, I was just like, my mom was a teacher in Brazil and she had like a lot of students like that. And sometimes like the group would come up and tell her like, hey, this guy's not doing anything. And she's like, how do you feel about it? Have you guys talked to him? Like, how do you guys feel if I'm not helping you out? And like, do you have any ideas of how to deal with him? Like my mom would let them try to solve the problem. And then in the last resort, then she was like, okay, let me come in with this. And then what she did once, there was a guy that never participated. She gave him a list of every week he has to talk to her about the stuff that she gave it to the whole team. So that way, even if he didn't participate in the team, he had to give her something in response for what was going on. So that way she knew that he kind of got the responsibility, but he just didn't want to be part of the responsibility, I don't know.
Okay.
That's one of the things I put it on my thing because I don't know. That's how sometimes people have hard time participating in a team and they don't care. But when it comes to their own stuff, then they're like, oh, maybe I should step it up a little bit, but it won't affect everybody then.
Yeah. All right.
So, and then the nonverbal language, comment on the videos and your observation of your own body language at the most recently team meeting based on the reviewing 15 to 20 minutes of the recording of that meeting.
Yeah, so we got to start with the rewarding teamwork article, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that that's the
A. Isidore,
Yeah.
the A.
Oh, my
Okay.
bad. I'm just
yeah, we were still doing all the case study one. There was like 3 within the case study.
Yeah, so now we're moving on.
A. Okay, so A, rewarding teamwork. Where is mine?
Anybody
Is
want to
that
go?
the,
I can start
Yeah.
unless someone else. Okay. I thought it was a pretty good TED Talk. What I got out of it, like I didn't get too much out of it. I think I got 2 main points. I liked the thing she said about helpfulness is like equating to people getting to know each other, because you know the idea of helpfulness is you're getting help from people, and it's kind of hard to get help from someone that you don't really know that well. So I think she made a good point about like the whole socializing is like really important. And then on top of that, she said that social interaction brings more motivation, or brings people more motivation, which I really liked, because if you have someone that's like you start getting along with better, and you're like, okay, like I kind of like this team now, like that gives you more of a sense of motivation to like strive. And like in the case of Bert, he clearly was not interacting with his teammates at all. So I just think that social part of it is really a big deal.
Can I jump in really quick?
Yeah, I was done. You're good.
I think you're talking about the pecking order.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because the rewarding teamwork is not a video.
It was
it's singled out, right?
an article.
Is that the one says
Oh,
You're talking about the.
page. Well, I answered the next one, so.
Okay, you had great points. I just know that wasn't
that's-
about the article.
Yeah, that's my
I
bad.
was like, guys, I think I missed something. I was like,
The article. What's the article called?
The article's about
Singled
rewarding
out.
teamwork. It's
Yeah. I think it's named like singled
Is
out.
it singled out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I only I did read it. The only thing I got on that was rewarding a single person does not create competition. It spills over and inspires others to work harder. So, there was that idea where like, oh, if you single someone out, it makes everyone like jealous, and they like, it brings a competitiveness to it. But in actuality, it just kind of inspires everyone else. That's what I got out of it.
I think
Sorry.
Sorry, not cutting you off, but I think on that one, the first thing that came up to my mind was like Starbucks. Starbucks brings that. We have that every quarter. We have the partner of the quarter, and you get like what, $50 or $75? I don't remember anymore. Like
Before tax.
Yeah, of course, so like $50 in here because it takes all their tax. Anyway, so like you get that. So when I was reading that, I put like that people have a tendency to work harder when they are motivated to get something. And I see that in the team, like not in here, but in Texas, when I was in Texas, like close to like the partner of the quarter, I will put the box out and people was like, ooh, partner of the quarter. And then you will see like everybody working so hard to be like reward and all of that. And then I put like, it's at the end of the day, like the single out reward is all about how you recognize the team and how you recognize individually work. And how like do you deal with all of that?
That's pretty.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, sorry. You can go.
No, you can go next.
I was just going to say that's interesting that Isidore brought that up, because the article actually mentions how monetary prizes are hurtful in most situations. So it's interesting to me that it comes across as a positive for you. That's good. Obviously, there are outliers, so sometimes things are good.
Well, sorry, not saying like it's positive all day, because unfortunately in Texas, when I was there, the last partner of the quarter, it wasn't something that the team chose. It was like the manager's choice. She literally is like, oh.
So that might be a teacher's pet situation.
Yeah, I think that's one of those situations, because like, isn't it? Well, in the case of partner of the quarter, isn't it like you can all vote, but ultimately it's up to the manager?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, and
don't
see, I think
that
if
was fair.
someone, right, yeah, and I don't think that's fair. I think that causes issues more than just letting the votes decide. I feel like there could be like a barista to take over and like announce who won. I don't know, something like that. But
Marina, you
Yeah, well, going kind of off what Paul said, I think that I know myself very well and I know what motivates me, and that's exactly what motivates me. Like, I'm very competitive, and I think if there's like a reward to be had, I'm gonna work really hard for it in terms of like my work life. And so I know that works really well for me, but I also have friends and colleagues and stuff who that doesn't work for them. If there's like too much competition, or there's like they're being directly compared with other people, they shut down. And so I think kind of what you said, Paul, there are always going to be outliers. And I think for me, it makes me think of how leadership, it's important to know your people and what motivates them, and how this can be used for some people and for some people it can't. Cheyenne, do you want to go next?
Yeah. I agree like with what you guys were saying. Personally, with a reward, like I'm more competitive and that works well for me. Within a team, I think singling out a single person to receive that award, it would create too much tension. Relating it back to like Starbucks and everything, in my district, we have a competition where it's like once a year we take the average of like our drive times in the district, and the store with the best average drive times, we win a trip to like Six Flags. And so rewards like that are really cool because it encourages the entire team to work together. And I think that ultimately allows people to strive for success, but picking out individuals to receive an award or reward, I think it just creates too much of a negative tension. Has everybody had an opportunity to go?
Amber needs to go.
So as far as, goodness, I've forgotten it, the teamwork or rewarding teamwork, I guess I've experienced going through it as a team and on an individual basis, not so much in the role that I'm in now in survivorship, but before that, I would initiate memberships for service members and their families. And so that's really about, let's, welcome to the membership, and let's get your household in order. And so there are multiple teams that would be in place, and definitely there are like an employee of the month that everyone can nominate, and it still is just chosen by whomever and throughout the managers. But around the holidays though, we do have like a holiday lunch that we're able to do, but then based off of like performances, there's also a team outing that we get to do in addition to our team meeting. So last year, my team, we did an escape room. So that was really cool to be able to, focus on this is what our goals are and be able to do that. I definitely do like that. And then another point that I found interesting was that the effectiveness of the program is only, as valid as it being consistent throughout. So it doesn't make it fair if one team gets to participate, but the neighboring team doesn't, just because their manager doesn't want to bother with it. So I think that consistency throughout, whatever, I guess if it's at a store level or if it's on a team level that's still within a certain department, I think that's helpful. But I definitely did make note of that it does need to be consistent throughout. So.
now Aaron gets to talk about the pecking order.
Now the pecking.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, so I'm just clarifying now because I'm confused. It's the Margaret TED Talk, right?
Yes, the chicken thing.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I just reiterate, she said that helpfulness is equal to people getting to know each other. So it's not really, you don't really, help is a lot better when you know someone and you can trust them a bit more. Like if it's just someone you don't know, it's like hard to get help from them as well. and then just bringing up the whole social interaction brings people more motivation. So like, you know, in the case of Bert, like he wasn't really socially with his team like at all, so obviously he's going to have zero motivation to do anything, and that's why his teammates were, you know, trying to pick up his slack. So that's what I got out of it. Amber, do you want to go?
Yes. So the pecking order. So also too with the competitiveness, I definitely have experienced that. And then also experience where there is the promoting of you having time and that I think plays into like the culture of what is acceptable and what is desired as far as employees and the types of relationships that we have. USA wants to know each year that you have a best friend at work, and that you have someone that you can talk to and reflect with and be able to go and grab coffee with. And I think that it doesn't even have to be someone who's in your department. I still go back to the last department that I'm in to go in and chat with my friends, or I'll tell my manager, hey, I need 15 minutes so that I can go and, you know, just communicate and just share some coffee with, you know, these other people within the company. So I definitely can see how that would, you know, be effective as far as collaboration when there are, you know, individuals in different departments still communicating, still having relationships, so that I'm able to just send a quick message. Hey, do you know what the guideline for this is? Because this would pertain to this department. Can you just tell me? Versus me having to send this email and having to do this massive follow-up. So it's not necessarily in creating, but just the management of handling business for USA. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Paul, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you. I really like this video. You know, a lot of the TED Talks that we get have been, some of them are hit or miss, and some of them are really solid. And I've never heard this idea put forward the way the Super Chicken story did. And I thought it was quite applicable. You know, I really liked it, especially the three main characteristics that she goes out of her way to highlight were the high social sensitivity, equal time awarded to each member, and then the inclusion of more women, which, like, the three of them sound obvious, like that should be a given, but I can see that they're quite often overlooked, and it's interesting to see just how impactful something like that can be, because I was not expecting those chickens to kill everybody, and that was quite relatable business-wise. Not that I'm going around killing people, but like, I mean,
I hope not. I hope it wasn't an admission of guilt.
I don't keep the camera on. But yeah, no, I really like this one. I'm glad we had to go through it. Marina, do you want to go?
Sure. I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. Yeah, the Super Chicken model was something, but I really like the idea of collective restoration. She talked about that a little bit. I know that thinking back on my experiences, times I feel the least productive is when I don't feel like I have any support when the going gets tough, and when it's like super high pace and I feel like I'm isolated and alone because I don't have the support of my management. That's when I feel like the angriest, the least productive. And so I like the idea of collective restoration because I think that can be really powerful in an organization. Mm-hmm. Has everybody's gone?
No.
Isadora, Cheyenne. Okay, cool. Cheyenne?
Yeah. So I really like, I know it's been said, but the group of Super Chickens example. And I mean, I grew up like raising chickens. And so I see this and it just makes total sense because I mean, I've had flocks where one rises above and like we just end up with dead chickens because people like they just create that pecking order. And I just like the reference that it made to the group of Super Chickens, like those Super Chickens, like they gained their success through basically diminishing others within that large group setting. And so I just thought that was interesting because ultimately, like, it is about teamwork. And if you're sitting there and pecking another to death, you're not going to be successful. And then at the end of the video, again, I just like this quote, but she stated, like, no stars are necessary within a group. We need everyone, and everyone has a perspective. And so just going through and like making sure that everyone's heard as that individual and not really having like a teacher's pet, so to say, because everyone's valuable. Everyone has a perspective that can be brought to the group. So yeah, Isadora.
All right, I like that too, and I like how like she puts that everybody needs to like ask for help and give help. And when I first started at Starbucks as a supervisor, I was there for like 4 months, and I became a shift, and I had no idea what was going on. And there was another lady that was there for 10 years, and every time I had a problem, I would just run to her. I was like, hey, how do I do this? How can I get this better? And blah, blah, blah. Like, what should I do? Like, and I like the super chicken idea. I felt like she was my super chicken, like on that other side of the fence. Cause like, I wasn't really part of the supervised team yet, right? Cause I just got the promotion. So I wasn't part of the A team. So I was just like watching her. And yes, there was like other people that literally chew her over and got promoted ahead of her because she was so nice and she was just trying to help everybody. And people ended up taking advantage of her, and I think like the video showed me that, and like about like giving companies the memento thing. And I feel like sometimes at Starbucks I see that a lot, like they have the opportunity and sometimes we just overlook them because people are just trying to go over each other just to prove something, and then in the end nothing gets done. But I like that video too, so it was pretty cool. And I feel like what happens in a team really counts. And I feel like in this team that we are right now, it does count. Like everybody's helping each other, and all the feedback that we give it to us, it really counts. That's pretty good. Go on, Paul. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please, do you have more to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I just wanted to chime in, and I don't like doing this, but as timekeeper, we do have like maybe 30 minutes left and 7 more prompts to cover. So
Okay.
unfortunately,
You gotta go.
yeah, we got to push.
Okay. So let's go to the nonverbal. Aaron, do you want to start since we started with you last time?
Yeah, I got you. So as far as the video goes, I basically put having hasty generalizations about body language will make you misread body language. Actually listening and focusing on what someone is saying will help you a lot more than overanalyzing their body language. So instead of just assuming that their arms are crossed and they're bored, stuff like that. Just like actually listening to what they're saying rather than just focusing on only their body language. You just don't want to overanalyze it is basically what I got out of it. And then for the video of us, I interpreted my body language when you guys were giving me feedback. A few things I got out of it. I seem to always nod when you guys made some main points. So I'm just non-verbally acknowledging you guys. I tried to lighten the mood a few times because that kind of was a little awkward moment because it's not, you're not used to giving, not negative, but feedback on something you could work on. That's kind of a tense thing you have to do. And so I just tried to make the moment not so tense. And then I feel like I saw myself smiling and a lot, and then responding with the thank you after you guys finished, just to let you know that I appreciated the feedback. That's what I got out of it. That's what I saw. Cheyenne, I'm trying to rush. Sorry.
So from the video, ultimately, I just really liked how he went through and he showed the picture examples and just kind of showed the body language within that. What I found really interesting was the observations with the two twins and the examples of real smiling versus fake smiling and reading the body language of that. When I went through and rewatched the video, things that I noticed about my body language was my head nodding, that showed that I was engaged. Leaning in towards my camera showed that I was listening. And in areas where I wasn't watching when I was receiving feedback, I noticed that my eyes were wandering often. I was very fidgety, and there were times that I looked bored. Amber, based off of your feedback that you had given me, I went back and I watched it. I'm like, wow, I definitely see where she was coming from with that. And so thank you. Marina.
Yeah, so I think I watched myself, and I think the biggest thing I noticed is that I feel when I'm just listening, my resting face just looks my mouth is like a little bit open and I'm just like a mouth breather, okay? But I just looked like so disinterested. But in reality, that's just my face. So that's something I'm gonna be conscious of moving forward. I felt like I did a good job. I felt like I was nodding a lot and I was trying to give those nonverbal cues that I was processing what you guys were saying. And then the other thing is I was like biting my lips a lot and I was like, whoa, what's that about? So I'm also going to be conscious of that. And then, I had one more thing to say, but I can't think of it. So if I think of it, I'll say it. Isadora?
All right, so I watched the Frankenstein, and as soon as I finished that, I went to watch my video to see like what part of the body I was looking at, and it was just I don't want to be the Frankenstein. I was like, let me which, but I feel like when I interview people at Starbucks, I kind of do that a lot. I kind of judge them for like what they're looking, what they're dressed, like what they're crossing their arms and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I need to change that because that's a conception we have, not necessarily the truth. But when I was watching my video, I felt like in the beginning I was really nervous when you guys were gonna tell me something because I was like holding like, okay, I'm ready. But like deep inside, I was like nervous. And I feel like I smiled a couple times. I saw like, but it wasn't like kind of like fake smile. One of them was like, yes, okay. And I feel like kind of deep into because I was trying to process everything at once. And I'm not gonna get everything at once. I have to read it again. So I'm like, okay. Like that's one of the things I noticed about my body language that I smiled and I was like kind of, am I listening right? I feel like I didn't want to miss anything. So I was just really focused on what you guys were telling me. And I didn't take anything for like granted. I'm going to work and all of that. And I like feedbacks. Like I feel like sometimes I move on to that. Like I work on that. And yes, Amber, I got it to Sarah's downloaded on my computer now. And I have it. Like I'm reading those, like using some different words. Like, okay, maybe I should word this thing now. So thank you. Would you like to go?
Yeah, I'll go. So for the nonverbal language, I feel like some of his jokes were not met with what the initial response was. He was a little off kilter, some of them. As far as the body language, I definitely did make note of also the twins too. And I was like, oh, there are two of them. Look at that. I didn't quite understand what he was saying as far as their fake smile and one, like I was trying to look at their eyes and I just could not see the difference between the two, or as he was trying to make note of it. But I did even kind of rewind to try and tell what he was referring to. As far as my own nonverbal language, I talk a lot with my hands. I know that I do. I definitely do. I also nod a lot. And I, because I know of my resting face, and I knew that much younger in life, that I smile a lot. And that is my auto response is a smile because I can be misconstrued as a short little angry black lady. But that is just, even, so I started working when I was 16. So well over, 30, 15 years ago. So I had to learn early on to be aware of what my face is displaying. So I automatically have a smile or some type of smirk on my face all the time, unless I'm just exhausted or extremely pissed off. And then at that point, someone needs to know how angry I am. So, but that's me. So I would say it's consistent with things that I did already know about myself though. Paul.
So very similar to Amber, I walked into this kind of aware of my typical body language. Like just the way I guess developed was I'm a rather like go-to stoic. I don't show a lot of expression unless it's like laughing and smiling. That happens all the time when I can't control it. So I've tried to be active and go out of my way to like nod or smile and engage because I'm listening, but I don't look like it. And I want people to feel like they're being heard. So I try to make that effort to let you know, but I don't know. Cause like, that's what I noticed in the video is that like, I'll nod or I'll try to like, as difficult as it is with like my small eyes and a camera, try to make eye contact with someone who has no idea that I'm trying to make eye contact with them. Like I internalize the fact that it's not obvious that I'm listening sometimes if I were to just sit here and look frozen, but I am listening, so I try to move around more. So I think with the clip of the video that I saw, it showed that I was trying to do that, and I don't know if maybe I could do that more or not, but I feel like I'm doing a lot better than I used to do, which is good to see. Cool.
Good. All right, everybody. Okay, moving on. 9. Respond to these questions. So A, what would you say are the 2 most important lessons about teams that you will take away from this course? Amber.
Patience and flexibility. Cheyenne.
You're not on.
You're on mute, dear.
Okay, flexibility as well, and then creating a sense of trust early on. Isadora.
I put patience because sometimes like the schedule stuff it was one thing, and then the other thing I put is like engaged and more and be engaged more in the team. Paul.
So I kind of noted that I'm not entirely sure anything new was revealed, but I definitely know that certain lessons were supported. The 2 that I highlighted were it's easier to hold people accountable when in person. That wasn't really an issue in this group, but I can definitely see how easy it would be, how hard it would be to do that through virtual. And the second one is that your teammates will often notice your efforts and successes in ways that you won't. So like when we did our assessments and our feedback section, it was interesting to see what like you noticed about me or what Aaron noticed about Amber or stuff like that like maybe we didn't pick up on. So I thought that was interesting. Marina, have you gone?
No, I would say the first thing is my way, things I learned. My way is the best way for me, but it's not necessarily the best way for my team. And secondly, like patience. Like you just gotta validate people and like have patience. Aaron?
Yeah, I had patience too, because there was times like, and we brought it up, but like that 3-hour meeting was a struggle for me. So like patience, and then I think like just like as far as a team goes, like social interaction, like that's very important. Like kind of like the video we just did, like it's important to like trust your teammates and like befriend them at least, like because if you don't know your teammates that well, like how are you supposed to work together and trust each other? So that's what I got out of. Those are the lessons I got.
Cool. So B, what did you think of the textbook readings? Were concepts covered there that were not addressed in the other readings videos? Would you recommend it I continue using or no? I will go with Paul because Paul had always a strong opinion about the book.
I'm almost always in favor of getting rid of required textbooks. This one particularly wasn't expensive, but it was really redundant. And I feel like anything necessary was covered in the free learning materials that we were given virtually. I would not keep the book at all. It wasn't bad. It read easy, but it just wasn't impactful for me. So I would say get rid of it. Aaron?
Yeah, same thing pretty much. Like I think there was some good points in the book. But like overall I found myself skimming through and just kind of reading like the big head points and then being like, okay, well we kind of went over that already. I didn't really get anything out of it as far as like concepts that weren't covered in the videos. It seemed like most of the concepts already were covered, and it was just kind of reiterating that. So and then it was a very straightforward book. Like it wasn't bad, but I think I don't want to spend money on it. Like I wouldn't want someone else to spend money. So no, I don't think it should be included in the course. Amber?
I only remember picking up this book a few times. And I think that it was, as far as it being informative, it was definitely interesting, the information about like the success of virtual teams initially, because that was something that I didn't know. But as we progressed further, it became less relevant. And I think that even that portion that was unknown to me could potentially be available through another source that we wouldn't have to need the textbook. So it was what it was. It's a textbook. It's, it's certainly easy to read versus having to read through a research article and gain information from that. But if there's also going to be other assigned readings, then I would say that this is not going to be also required. Marina?
I would say ultimately, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's material that could be covered in a online article or some source like that. Isadora?
I also put that the textbook for me wasn't like a big thing. I feel like the George Washington webpage had more to give than the book had. So, I don't know. Cheyenne?
I agree with you guys in saying that this textbook isn't necessarily necessary for this class. I felt there were a few valid points within it, but ultimately a lot of it was common knowledge. I could see how the textbook would be helpful in areas outside of, like, for someone who hasn't taken this class. With the readings that we went through, like, I felt that it was redundant, and ultimately, I mean, I spent $50 on that book and I picked it up 3 times. And so I don't think that it's necessary.
All right. So moving on to C. What assignment did you find the most useful? Describe the specific assignment that you found the most useful and explain why. Cheyenne, since you're the last one.
Yeah, I really liked the assignment where we went through with the interview. The interview itself, I think, was very good, but I really liked the content meeting, I think it was, before, when we went through and just created the agenda for the interview. One, like, we had to go through and basically create an entire agenda, which I think was good practice for us, as well as coming up with interview questions, coming up with a way to word them correctly, making sure that it makes sense, and just making sure that the questions didn't really repeat themselves, which I think is sometimes hard to do when creating interview questions. So that's what I really liked. Marina.
Yeah, actually, going off that, I really liked the interview assignment too, because I think this whole course was cool in its concept, but I did get really comfortable with you guys, and I think the interview I just thought it was a really cool experience and a really good, and I feel like I learned a lot from it. So definitely keep that one, I would say. Aaron?
Yeah, I said the interview as well. I really liked the interview assignment. Going into it, I was very nervous and was like, oh my God, this is going to suck. I'm not going to enjoy it. Like, but I actually really did. Like, I think our interview, I don't know about other people's interviews, but I think ours went really well. And I think if you pick the right person, as far as leadership experience goes, you can get a really good interview out of it. I liked it because it takes you out of your comfort zone within the means of a group. And it gives you insight from someone outside of the class besides the instructor, which is, I think, more helpful for like a real world application. So yeah, I really like the interview assignment. Paul?
Challenger role. I did not put the interview. I put the team assessment just because I thought the revelations is like a really big word for this context, but like the feedback that we received and gave to one another that I saw it carried over. Like even now, Isadora's got a thesaurus going on because Amber brought it up. Like I just thought it was a really impactful assignment. I thought it was cool that we did it, so I definitely think that should be pushed on and emphasized. So, Amber, do you want to go?
Yes, now that my offspring has removed himself, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I also enjoyed the interview, but as far as team engagement, I know it took us a long time doing the team charter, but I would say that when you're in a new team and you're first starting on things, it takes longer because you're trying to get to know each other. And I think that was really essential, and it needed to be done, honestly. And the fact that it took 3 hours, is unfortunate. But it got done, and it definitely did allow for us to set the tone and be able to get to business and not have to have multiple meetings that are taking that length of time and taking that much time for us to get through the material. So I definitely think that was important, and I did enjoy it after the fact. I'm glad that we got to do that, and we're able to come up with a document that was very good and we were proud of as a group.
Okay, I guess I'm last. So I also put team charter because I feel like that's where the group grew the most, and I felt like that's where we learned more about each other, even though it was the longest one we had. But I feel like that's where I saw most of our teamwork because everybody was involved, everybody was trying to participate. So I feel like that was the most useful for the team to grow, and that's the one I used. Okay, so then moving on to, sorry, I forgot, C. What assignment did you, D. What assignment did you find the least useful? Describe the specific assignment that you found the least useful and explain why. Go, Amber, since you're laughing about
I'm sorry,
it.
I thought I was muted. I would say the review of the other team's feedback, just because again, this is not, I don't feel like it's defensive. Whatever your truth is, that is what it is. It doesn't mean that you're going to respond negatively to it, in person when it's needed. But I would say I don't think that one was as useful for me, but that is me. Aaron?
I not to be defensive or anything, but I also put that one. I think it could have been more useful as a point to make rather than like a whole agenda and assignment based off of it. Like just like a quick like, oh hey, this is what they had to say about you. Like I don't know,
like
I don't even know how that would
review it in the meeting as like some of the feedback that we would normally do. Why did we need to dedicate?
Yeah, and I just think it was like
that?
I think it was a whole thing that didn't need to be a whole thing, but like it wasn't like, it's not a bad thing to have. I think the other feedback can be useful. I think in our scenario it kind of wasn't, but also, there's my defensive reaction getting to me again. So,
Okay,
I'm biased, I guess.
Me too.
So that was my opinion. Cheyenne.
You're muted.
Okay. Okay. The one that I didn't think was very useful, just an application of this class, was the actual interview itself. While it was enjoyable, I felt that once we had created the agenda and like gone over the process of how an interview would work, I don't think that we necessarily needed to conduct an actual interview. But just my opinion.
Well, that's an excellent point though, Cheyenne. It really is.
Fair. Yeah.
Who hasn't gone?
I haven't, and Paul.
Okay. Isadora.
And me.
Okay, so unfortunately, I put the feedback from the other team. I felt like maybe if they had a different point of showing us that, I feel like they should have gave us like a strength and then a weakness. And I feel like that would be better than just like writing about like the flaws of the team. And that's what I put. I feel like maybe I would take it better, not as defensive as they put like, hey, one weakness of this team is this. And then if they want to single somebody out, they will be fine. But I feel like that for me was like, okay, they didn't really watch the whole thing. Or maybe in case they should have watched the whole thing in order for them to give a feedback, not like only a couple minutes of the meeting. Marina?
Yeah, so I don't know. There's no, like, I don't think there's one that I would remove from the course. I think if I had to pick a least useful, maybe dedicating a whole meeting to reviewing Team 10's feedback of us. But I think it was still like beneficial. I think ultimately, I think all the assignments were fine. Like I learned something from each of them. So yeah, Paul.
So a little different. I didn't put the assessing feedback. I consider the video that we did assessing the actual team to have been my least useful interaction because I didn't get anything out of it. It was really straightforward. I think had the team we were assessing been, I guess, outperforming us, maybe I could have learned something like that. Might have been impactful, but that, no offense, 100% was not the case. And therefore, I didn't gain anything from it. I felt like the feedback could have been a more impactful assignment than the actual assessing one was. So that's why I went with the assessment.
All right, everybody. So if you were taking the course again, knowing what you know now, knowing what you now know, what could I have told you that would have been most helpful at the beginning? I think Amber, you kind of gave her a couple of that in the.
Yeah, as far as I understand what she's saying, as far as it's not because we're in a virtual environment that, not everyone can meet a certain need. But I would argue that is not true. You have to have time to do your coursework. Like there's time that that you'll have to have set aside to do your work. So I would say that. Even if it's just to keep everybody on the same schedule, because that was a concern, having such a wide range of times available, because, there were so many teams involved. I think that as far as for grading purposes, it would be easy if she knew that there was one set date that a group is going to be meeting. at least to even keep like the scheduling of the modules in line. It's not to say that it can't be adjusted in times, but I would say that that should be a meeting that is at least pinpointed. And if it needs to be adjusted occasionally, then that's fine. It's not saying that it can't be changed, but I'm just saying as far as having something in place that would help eliminate, an extra 30 minutes, that we're having to go through each time to set that up. But that was just what I was saying.
I'll go next if it's okay, because I kind of want to build off that. I mean, initially when you first said that to Dr. Chanley in my head, I was like, well, that wouldn't work for me. But I kind of actually agree. Like, I understand, like, we can't be like, okay, the team one's going to meet Tuesdays at 7 p.m. no matter what. But if you just say, like, team one, like, Tuesdays, like, Tuesday evenings, like, that's, you guys got to meet Tuesday evenings. I think, like, most people will be able to work with that. And and there's still wiggle room and they communicate with their team. But I think that's a good idea. Like, same time zone, and just be like, okay, Tuesday afternoons or like Monday mornings is when team one is going to meet. So at least people can start to kind of align and be on the same page.
Or add themselves into the correct group.
But. Oh yeah, I kind of agree. Erin?
You can go, Cheyenne.
Okay. Just because I want to build off of you guys again. When I first started going through the syllabus and the instructions for this class, I was under the impression that, so we did like a Sunday morning at 7 a.m., something like that, as our very first meeting. And I was under the impression that that was going to be a consistent time meeting. Maybe I misinterpreted the instructions. And so when she stated that we would go through and like pick a time for ourselves, like, it ended up working out fine. It just wasn't something that I was, I guess, prepared for. And so I like the idea of going through and having like a set time, or at least like a set date or whatever, because I think it makes things easier. And while we may not have a consistent schedule, I feel like we have an idea of what usually works for us. So, I don't know. Erin?
I just put that I think if she, and she did probably emphasize it a little bit at the beginning, but I just think, telling everyone to really try to get to know each other, like, it's kind of like a little in friend group, like, I think kind of setting it like that, giving that picture of it would help a lot for me, because like, to me, going into it, I was expecting like, oh, this is a very formal professional video chat, like I need to be very like stern and like precise, and like it's just not the case. So like, I just think like, this is not a very, I mean, it's serious, but it's not like, it's not like business suity serious. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think giving it that impression would help a lot. And I think she did, but I'm just reiterating that, I guess. Who hasn't gone? Paul
and I, yeah.
Okay. Paul.
Mine's really easy because this is what I put in my response. There's nothing that I needed to be told in the beginning of this course, like that wasn't laid out. Like any obstacle we faced in this class isn't something I could have been told about. It was like organization stuff on their part. So I don't think there's anything she could have told me more. I think she laid out everything I needed initially.
Mm-hmm.
Isadora?
Yeah, I put that the only thing that I put is like, I thought we were going to meet every Sunday at 7 a.m. and that's why I picked that. And I feel like on the course, I thought that was it. I was like, I'm going to pick the time that I can be there for sure, because that's my day off and that's the day that I'm going to be committed to. And I came in thinking that was it. And then we started changing stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, hopefully I can make the time for that, because I was prepared to be every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And I think I talked to Amber about that too. Like one of the times we were doing stuff, I was like, Amber, I thought we were supposed to meet every Sunday morning at this time. But that was all my confusion again. So good. All right, moving on, since everybody was part of that. So the last question is, if you were talking to someone getting ready to take this course in the future section, what would you tell them?
I can start. I would say it's not as scary as it seems, and it's actually really satisfying to complete the modules as a team. So don't stress about it, because it'll flow. You'll be good. Marina?
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree. I think the biggest thing is I would say is take advantage of this cool class, because it's not like normal classes, and just try to get to know your team, because I think it's gonna help a lot and then make the sessions more fun. Cheyenne?
While this course is presented as intimidating with a lot of reading and the commitment itself with the meetings, as much as I dislike to admit it, this has been one of my favorite classes that I've taken throughout my entire college experience. I think it's a lot of fun and that I've learned a lot from it. And so just be prepared for, I guess, your mindset to change over time, and be willing to put in the work to building the relationships amongst your team, because it's going to make things a lot more enjoyable. Amber?
I would agree with you, Cheyenne, that this really has been an enjoyable course. Thank you, Bennett. Say hello.
Well,
Okay, you're not going to hush. I apologize.
I just want to play because I like to play so because talking is free. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. So he said it all for me. But I definitely really enjoyed it. And I think it's just really keeping an open mind and being able to get to know people in a virtual environment. The way that business is conducted, there'll be more of this. So it's definitely a good idea to get familiar with and get comfortable with it. Who's next?
Me or Paul? I will go on, I guess. So I put that was very, for me, if I just tell somebody, it's like, come prepared, because you have to be part of a one-on-one kind of thing. Like, it's a virtual meeting, so I'm very shy. So for me, it's like, come prepared. But I also enjoyed this class a lot. I feel like I came out a little bit of my bubble, and I was like, okay, I like this, but be ready to be in a virtual interaction with everybody. That's something that I wasn't really prepared, but I like it. You want to go, Paul?
Sure. Wow, I feel like I'm the only one that wrote something negative. Be prepared for structure and organizational errors, and a lot of confusion and frustrations. Just get ready for that. It's not your fault, and you can't fix it. And then this one isn't course specific, but just be prepared to try and be as flexible as possible, because you've got so many people, and in this situation, it's a little bit harder than in person because you're across the countries and you've got various conflicts, and you just got to work around it. So staying flexible, you'll be okay. That's all I got.
Okay, cool. So, how did this meeting go, guys? Think back to the first meeting. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
We need to add in, she wanted us to discuss whether or not the team evaluations was the assessing another team, if it was something that we wanted to keep in the course, and our thoughts on that.
I already brought that up.
Yeah, I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. I think there's some good points to it, but ultimately, either make it like a part of another discussion or just cut it altogether. I don't think it needs to be a whole meeting.
I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think if it's a good feedback for all of us, it's something that we can learn from. But I also think maybe they should have a 2 steps. They should give us a weakness and then some strength, just so that way not everybody get offended or everybody doesn't take out of context. Because I feel like some of those steps we took out of context. I took out of context when they were evaluating me. So I think that's one of the things.
Are we addressing that correctly, Cheyenne? The evaluation itself or the feedback for it?
The evaluation.
Hang on, let me find.
I couldn't find an email, so I'm trying to find it in the.
I've got it right here if you want me to read it.
Yes, please.
I would like feedback on the teams assessing each other and whether that is a good or not so good assignment. So she is, in fact, talking about the assessment.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I was addressing that question. I think that it is not a bad exercise. I do think that there should be a consistent means of this is how you do the guidelines, and not just everyone making up their own. Because we were doing it and we were just kind of building it along as we were going. We didn't even know what the actual requirements were. We were using the George Washington website, but there's not even really set things that would need to be addressed. So I think that it is a good assignment. I think that there should be more structure to it. It's literally just like putting the notes there. This is the format I want to receive this in, and that be it. So I would say that adjustment would help as far as keeping it concise and keeping the feedback that is received from each of the teams consistent, so that they are not only providing negative, but also providing positive feedback, and it's stating, this is what I want you to provide. What did they do good? What did they do that wasn't so good? And what is an area of an improvement? Boom, boom, boom. And that be it.
Right.
I agree. I think it's a good assignment to keep. I don't think you should get rid of it just because people are getting defensive, because maybe that's something they need to be more aware about and work on. But I completely agree with Amber. I think it just needs more structure so people have like a set criteria. I think that'll help people not like get offended, because I think sometimes teams will revert to being like, oh, you guys were picking on Isadora for the teapot noise if there's like no set criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, damn you, Isadora.
My headset, remember? We figured it out. That's why I haven't.
We did.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any?
Cheyenne.
So I really like the assignment, and I disagree with thinking that we need to add a criteria to it. I think us coming up with our own criteria was very beneficial, and I know myself with having to create it, like that's something that's going to stick in my brain of this is what should be included in an assessment, or even with the negative or not negative, just with the other team's assessment and us not really liking the criteria that they followed. That shows me like what like a criteria shouldn't be, versus if we were to sit there and have like these bullet points of what we need to hit, I would read it and it would go in one ear and out the other, and it's not something that I would necessarily remember later on. But forcing us to sit there and come up with our own criteria, I think that's something that I'm going to remember further. I do want to add a suggestion for the assessment meeting, though, like assessing the other person's feedback of us. Dr. Chanley, I would almost suggest trying to come to that meeting almost as a mediator if necessary, just to encourage us to take it more as constructive criticism and maybe provide some context to where they may have been coming from, because when we're sitting there as a first reaction, I think it is easy for us to be defensive and not really see where exactly they're coming from. So I know that adds more work for Dr. Chanley, but I think that it would be beneficial if you were to keep this assignment.
I also think not grading. I also don't think taking points off for a defensive reaction is necessary, in my opinion. That sounds defensive. I don't know. I just feel like it's not necessary. I feel like we all still participated, like you said, and you even mentioned how it's a participatory grade. So I just don't see why participating, aka getting defensive, should be part of losing points. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that everyone?
Think so.
Okay.
All right, sorry. So now moving on to A. How did the meeting go? Think back to your first meeting and talk about how you have grown as a team over the section. All right.
I think that we're a lot less awkward. I think that this meeting has gone really well, and we don't have as many awkward pauses throughout the meeting. And we just flow going off of one another, and that's something that we've definitely improved on largely over the past 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What she said.
Yeah, I would agree as well.
Yeah. Amber, is everything okay?
No, it's my closet. My son,
Oh, okay.
My son has been saying that he himself is a cat named Bagheera and has been crawling around.
That's a great name.
Okay, if you say so.
I love the Jungle Book.
If he licks me one more time. But in general, yes, I did agree that this meeting did go well. And I think that overall, everyone on the team has grown as far as comfort level and being in a virtual setting. So you'll be able to definitely refer back to this experience in the future when it's needed. Anyone else?
Sorry, my phone, it's work, of course. But I feel like looking at me, because I took that as I know a team, but I also took personal. For me, looking back, I feel like I talked more at the end of the course. Like I was participating more. I was just not waiting for everybody to Isadora. So I think that's one of the things I got from this. Sorry. Anybody else before we moving on to 8?
9.
Okay, so 9. Sorry, mine.
9.
Any other comments or thoughts?
Nope.
No. Yeah.
Just remember, Paul, no means no, and we need to be nice.
Whoa. Right. One of those is not relevant.
I know. I'm teasing. I'm just saying for awareness, but you're going to use that going forward. My concern for you is just you don't want to say the wrong thing to someone and put your business in jeopardy, because that's just stupid.
I know.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Everybody's good? Okay, so moving on to 10. Did you think seriously about staying in touch with each other and move through stay in touch with each other as you move through your other courses? I'm sorry. I didn't even think about it, guys. I'm so sorry.
I'll go. Expect a Facebook friend request from Amber Optimistic O'Neill. Just saying. So of course, I definitely want to keep in contact with you guys. Now mind you, I don't add everybody to my Facebook page, because not everybody you connect with. But I definitely have met some people who I've definitely wanted to at least keep track of and be able to see how they progressed in their life and in their schooling. So you don't have to accept, but I will be sending it. Okay.
Okay, I will gladly accept it, even though I don't go there much. I just literally look at pictures. That's what I do on my Facebook. But yes. Anybody else?
It wasn't really a question.
Yeah, we all good. Okay. All right. So 11, final message from Dr. Chantley. Thank you for your hard work during this course. I know it was a lot of content and requirements, and that was my expectation, and we're right. But I hope you feel that you learned a lot and that the time was well spent. This is my favorite course, and I love seeing the growth and learning from students. It makes teaching rewarding and makes me feel like what I do is worthwhile. And that comes from you all. So again, thanks and best wishes as you go on with your studies and your lives. I'm sure you will make wonderful leaders at work, at home, and in societies more broadly. And that's a good thing, because we need you. We really do. Dr. Chantley. And P.S., please don't forget the course evaluation is important to me and to many reasons. Thanks.
Cool.
All right, folks.
This is it.
Well, it was nice to be part of this team.
Tears were shed.
I know. Well,
is everybody graduating in the next year?
I don't even know. I hope so.
Okay, yeah, this is why I need to be on your Facebook so I can see them graduation photos. Hey,
yeah.
2020.
Okay. I will have to fly to Arizona, right? So I'll probably take a coffee with you.
That sounds wonderful. If you don't, we don't have to get coffee, girl. We can get something else, okay?
I love coffee, so it's anything.
All right, good. Okay, why don't I keep you guys? But I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Drive safe, Cheyenne.
Bye. See you guys.